Well, the trucking industry is in for a shake-up, with the government set to introduce legislation it says will make Australian roads safer by removing incentives for drivers to break the law. Recent police raids on transport companies accused of tampering with truck speed limiters have highlighted the industry's flouting of speed limits and working hours. The new legislation will create an industry watchdog with the power to change contracts it considers to be unsafe. Kerry Brewster reports.
Frank Black's job is always a race against time.
They might get us out at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and still expect you in at 7 o'clock in the morning, which legally can't be done. There may be anything from roadworks to accidents to any sort of hold-up. And in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, I need to be there, I've got to get there.
The owner-driver only gets paid for the trip, not for loading or unloading. If he gets in late, he loses.
They either charge you a financial penalty or sometimes they rebook your delivery slot, which 9 times out of 10 is the following day.
So, like many long-haul drivers, he speeds when he can, drops rest breaks and takes stimulants to keep going.
Basically, you try anything to just try and get there.
More than 250 people were killed in collisions involving heavy motor vehicles last year. This truck wiped out a sedan north of Sydney recently, killing 3 people. The driver has been charged. His company, Lennon's Transport, is one of 2 trucking firms targeted in raids that police claim reveal widespread tampering of speed limiters and logbooks. The federal government says it's time to legislate for safer roads.
A spotlight will be at long last shone on one of the most lethal areas of Australian industry, and will there be a proper tripartite discussion about how you make our roads safer.
Workplace Relations Minister Bill Shorten says the proposed Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal will focus on unfair contracts that encourage dangerous driving.
Plenty of companies are saying we actually do need to have a better system of organising safe rates in Australia. There's so much time is wasted waiting to load, unload, inefficient queuing, and this puts pressure on the drivers who, if they're getting delayed at A and at B, to move quickly between A and B, and that's where everything comes unstuck.
Under the auspices of Fair Work Australia, it could rule that drivers be paid for queuing and unloading, or that penalties for late arrival be dropped.
There's no evidence that this bill will contribute anything towards reducing the road toll. Now, clearly, if a driver is stressed, whether that stress is caused by his financial situation or because he's got troubles at home, or he's listening to the football on the radio instead of concentrating on the road, he's not going to be as safe as somebody who is relaxed and concentrating on what he's doing. But we need to develop a culture of safety within the industry. The amount of money that a driver receives of itself doesn't make him safe.
That's definitely not true. We've had a number of independent studies that demonstrate that drivers who are paid on a piece rate or productivity basis are definitely more tired, they're more likely to take stimulants, they speed. I mean, those are all safety outcomes, and if they're not important, then we're not talking about road safety.
Professor Anne Williamson says a tribunal would be a bold reform, an opportunity to remove incentives that push contract drivers to be on the road for more than 70 hours per week.
It's the first time, I think, that we're really acknowledging that truck driving is a job, that professional truck drivers have occupational health and safety issues related. It's not just road safety, so industrial issues are just as important as the road safety ones, and it's an example of where they really do come together.
Representing Australia's biggest retailers, the Australian Logistics Council is against the proposed reform.
We believe that it's a heavy-handed regulatory interference really into what are generally commercial arrangements.
But transport expert Professor Williamson says until drivers are paid properly, they'll continue to put their own lives and others at risk.
I'd like to see drivers being paid for the time they spend loading and unloading, because that's just part of the freight task. I'd certainly like to see some of the pressures taken off drivers to arrive at a particular place on time, much more realistic and much more professional dealing with drivers about their arrival times and what happens if they don't make it for reasons that are often out of their control.
Frank Black is hoping his working conditions improve.
I want to come home safely. I want people around me to be safe.
Kerry Brewster, Lateline.